The quantum pulse hit without warning, cascading across the Terran defense grid like digital wildfire. In the span of 17 seconds, every AI system, every smart weapon, every automated defense platform across the Sol system went dark. The Zephyrian fleet, their sleek obsidian vessels gliding through the void with predatory grace, had finally found humanity's Achilles heel. Commander Sarah Chen watched her command center transform from a symphony of holographic displays into a tomb of dead screens. Around her, officers stared in disbelief at their silent consoles, the soft hum of processing units replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to press against their eardrums. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cracked slightly, "all automated systems are non-responsive. The fleet, we can't coordinate through the tactical network." Chen closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of 3 billion human lives pressing down on her shoulders. The Zephyrians had been studying humanity for decades, learning their weaknesses, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They had concluded that humans were nothing without their machines, a species that had grown soft and dependent on artificial intelligence. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Open manual communication channels," Chen ordered, her voice cutting through the despair like a blade. "Flag, semaphore, radio, anything that doesn't rely on quantum processing. Get me Captain Morrison on the Indomitable." The bridge crew scrambled, their training kicking in despite the shock. These weren't just technicians. They were descendants of admirals who had fought with cannons and courage, of pilots who had dueled in atmospheric fighters, of Marines who had stormed beaches with nothing but rifles and determination. Static crackled through the old radio system as Morrison's gruff voice emerged. "Chen, you still alive over there?" "Barely. What's your status?" "Same as yours, I'd wager. But I've got something the pointy-eared bastards didn't count on." Morrison's chuckle was dark and dangerous. "My grandfather's journal. He fought at Midway, you know, back when men navigated by stars and fought with iron." Chen felt something stir in her chest. Not fear, but something far more primal. "What are you thinking, Morrison?" "I'm thinking we show these aliens what humans did before we had computers to hold our hands." Across the fleet, a transformation began. On the dreadnought Thermopylae, Chief Engineer Jackson bypassed every automated system, manually routing power through circuits that hadn't been touched by human hands in decades. In the fighter bays of the carrier Yorktown, pilots stripped their craft down to basic systems, removing AI-assisted targeting and navigation, returning to the fundamental principles of physics and instinct. The Zephyrian Admiral Veltar watched through his ship's crystalline viewports, his elongated features curved in what passed for a smile among his species. The human fleet drifted aimlessly, their formation scattered, their weapons silent. It had been easier than anticipated. "Begin the harvest," he commanded in his melodious language. "Take the survivors for processing. This species has outlived its usefulness." But as the Zephyrian vessels moved in for the kill, something unexpected happened. The human ships began to move, not with the precise coordination of AI-assisted navigation, but with something far more dangerous: the unpredictable creativity of desperate minds. The frigate Hornet suddenly erupted in a burst of chemical rockets, its captain having jury-rigged mining explosives to its hull. The ship slammed into a Zephyrian cruiser, not with the calculated precision of a guided missile, but with the wild fury of a berserker charge. Both vessels disappeared in a bloom of nuclear fire. Commander Chen felt her ship shudder as her crew manually aimed the massive railguns, using optical telescopes and trigonometry that would have been familiar to gunners from Earth's ancient naval battles. "Fire!" she shouted, and the Constitution bucked as tungsten rods launched at a significant fraction of light speed toward their targets. The Zephyrians had prepared for everything except this. Their tactics assumed predictable responses, calculated strategies, logical formations. They had not prepared for the chaos of human improvisation, for the fury of a species with its back against the wall. Captain Morrison's Indomitable came screaming through the void, its engines pushed beyond all safety parameters, smoke and fire trailing from its hull like war paint. Morrison had rigged his ship's reactor to overload, turning his entire vessel into a guided bomb. His last transmission crackled through the static. "Tell my wife I remembered how to fight like a human." The explosion took out 3 Zephyrian heavy cruisers. Across the battle, human crews abandoned doctrine and embraced madness. They used their ship's structural debris as improvised shrapnel, turned cargo bays into giant shotguns, and flew their fighters in formations so erratic that even seasoned Zephyrian pilots couldn't predict their movements. Admiral Veltar watched in growing horror as his carefully orchestrated invasion dissolved into chaos. These weren't the dependent, machine-reliant creatures his intelligence had described. These were the descendants of apex predators, of a species that had clawed its way from caves to stars, through sheer bloody-minded determination. "Retreat," he finally ordered, his voice high with panic. These aren't civilized beings. They fight like animals." Commander Chen stood on her bridge, watching the elegant Zephyrian ships fleeing into the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit. Her uniform was torn, her face streaked with smoke, but her eyes burned with the same fire that had carried humanity from the African savanna to the stars. "Let this be a lesson," she said softly, knowing her words would echo through history. "We may love our machines, but we never forgot how to fight without them. We are human. We adapt, we overcome, and when everything else fails..." She looked out at the debris field where brave souls had given everything for their species' survival. "We fight with fire and fury." In the depths of space, ancient human instincts had proven stronger than any artificial intelligence, more resilient than any quantum technology. The machines had failed, but humanity had remembered what it meant to be human, and that was enough.